ఇవాల్టి మన కార్యక్రమానికి వక్తగా విచ్చేశారు డాక్టర్ రతన్ శారద గారు. వారి గురించి ఒక 4 మాటలు తెలుసుకుందాం. వీరు ముంబైకి చెందిన పంజాబీ వ్యక్తి. ఆయన సెయింట్ జేవియర్స్ కాలేజ్ నుండి ఆర్ట్స్ విభాగంలో గ్రాడ్యుయేషన్ పూర్తి చేశారు. ముంబై యూనివర్సిటీ నుండి పోస్ట్ గ్రాడ్యుయేషన్ చేశారు మరియు టెక్స్టైల్ కెమిస్ట్రీలో డిప్లొమా చేశారు. వీరు ఒక ప్రముఖ రచయిత, కాలమిస్ట్ అండ్ టెలివిజన్ ప్యానలిస్ట్ కూడా. భారతీయ సామాజిక రాజకీయ పరిణామాలపై ఆయన చేసే విశ్లేషణలు ఎంతో లోతైనవిగా ఉంటాయి. చిన్నప్పటి నుండి ఆర్ఎస్ఎస్లో క్రియాశీల సభ్యునిగా ఉన్న ఆయన 5 సంవత్సరాల పాటు ఒక విభాగానికి సంఘచాలకగా బాధ్యతలు నిర్వర్తించడంతో పాటు పలు కీలక నాయకత్వ పాత్రలను కూడా పోషించారు. అండర్స్టాండింగ్ ఆర్ఎస్ఎస్ త్రూ ఇట్స్ రిజల్యూషన్స్ ఫోకస్ ఆన్ జమ్మూ కాశ్మీర్, నార్త్ ఈస్ట్ అండ్ పంజాబ్ అనే అంశంపై ఆయన సమర్పించిన థీసిస్కు 2018లో PhD లభించింది. ఈ థీసిస్ ఆధారంగానే పుస్తకం కూడా రూపొందించబడింది. ఆర్ఎస్ఎస్ అనే అంశంపైనే ఆయన PhD సాధించడం ఆయన విద్యాపరమైన పట్టును మనకు తెలియజేస్తోంది. వివిధ మీడియా వేదికలపై సమకాలీన అంశాలపై తన అభిప్రాయాలను పంచుకునే ఆయనను కర్ణావతి విశ్వవిద్యాలయం వంటి గొప్ప సంస్థలు గుర్తించి గౌరవించాయి. భారతదేశం మారుతున్న సామాజిక రాజకీయ ముఖ చిత్రాన్ని అర్థం చేసుకోవడంలో ఆయన ఒక గౌరవప్రదమైన గొంతుకగా నిలిచారు. ముంబైలో విశ్వ అధ్యయన కేంద్రం సెంటర్ ఫర్ ఇంటర్నేషనల్ స్టడీస్ను స్థాపించి అంతర్జాతీయ విద్యా చర్చలలో గణనీయమైన కృషిని చేశారు. డాక్టర్ రతన్ శారద గారు దీనికంటే ముందు ఆర్ఎస్ఎస్పై 6 పుస్తకాలు రాశారు. శ్రీ గురునానక్ దేవ్పై రాసిన పుస్తకంతో కలిపి ఆయన మరో 2 పుస్తకాలు కూడా రచించారు. ఫ్రమ్ మేనేజ్మెంట్ టు ఫిల్మ్స్ టు కుకరీ వంటి వివిధ అంశాలతో 12 పుస్తకాలకు ఆయన ఎడిటింగ్ మరియు డిజైనింగ్ కూడా చేశారు. ప్రముఖ ఆర్ఎస్ఎస్ సిద్ధాంతకర్త శ్రీరంగ హరి రాసిన శ్రీ గురూజీకి సంబంధించిన 2 ముఖ్యమైన రచనలను ఆయన అనువదించారు. ఆయన రచనలు 6 భారతీయ భాషల్లోకి అనువదించబడ్డాయి. వీరు సేవా కార్యక్రమాల్లో మరియు సామాజిక కార్యకలాపాల్లో చురుగ్గా పాల్గొంటారు. బాల్యం నుండే ఆర్ఎస్ఎస్ స్వయం సేవక్గా ఉన్న ఆయన సంస్థల్లో వివిధ బాధ్యతలను నిర్వహించారు. ఆర్ఎస్ఎస్ అనుబంధ సంస్థలతో ఆయనకు సన్నిహిత సంబంధాలు ఉన్నాయి. విద్యార్థి నాయకుడిగా ఉన్న సమయంలో 1975 నుండి 77 మధ్య అత్యవసర పరిస్థితిలో ఆయన అరెస్ట్ అయి జైలుకు కూడా వెళ్లారు. రతన్ శారద గారికి వ్యాపార రంగంలో విస్తృత అనుభవం ఉంది. గత 22 ఏళ్లుగా ఆయన ERP కన్సల్టెంట్గా పనిచేస్తున్నారు. ఈయన భారతదేశంతో పాటు వివిధ దేశాల్లో దాదాపు 25 దేశాల్లో పర్యటించారు. ఈయన టీవీలో మనకు చాలా సుపరిచితమైన వ్యక్తి మరియు ఫ్రీలాన్స్ కాలమిస్ట్ కూడా. ఇంతటి గొప్ప వ్యక్తి ముంబై నుండి మన దగ్గరికి ఈ కార్యక్రమానికి రావడం చాలా సంతోషంగా ఉంది. ధన్యవాదాలండి. మన స్పీకర్ డాక్టర్ రతన్ శారద గారిని ఒక 4 మాటలు మాట్లాడాల్సిందిగా కోరుతున్నాను.
माननीय परिमला जी, राका सुधाकर जी और कर्नल शेषगिरी राव जी, आपकी उपस्थिति में ये पुस्तक का अनावरण हुआ है और ये पुस्तक वास्तव में पठनीय है. द पीपल हु अंडरस्टैंड असम और सम आइडिया ऑफ असम actually no idea of Assam. So when you are speaking, I could make out some stories, and there are endless stories like this. When you talk of success of nationalism, you talk of how Rashtra are made and how sacrifices are done. We have a colonel who nearly gave his life. Fight because there are people behind them like Raka Sudhakar Rao and many Pracharak Sangha Karyakartas who fight on the ground with the anti-national forces, which give them strength to fight on the border with the outside enemy. So we must understand the role played by RSS in Karyakartas in fighting the enemy within while they could fight the enemy outside. Both are fighting, but both have different roles. मैं शुरू में जब वेट कर रहे थे सुधाकर राव की और यहाँ पर हम बैठ गए तो ऐसे मेरे मन में ऐसे हंसी की बात आई कि दूल्हा लेट हो रहा है, बारात तो टाइम पे निकलनी चाहिए. तो हमारे मुख्य पुरोहित आयुष जी ने कहा कार्यक्रम शुरू करो. तो जब तक दूल्हा है तब तक मंत्र जाप वगैरह हमने शुरू कर दिया था. लकीली बारात निकलने के पहले दूल्हा आ गया. पंजाब में, दिल्ली में ऐसा भी होता है कि दूल्हा उससे भी लेट आता है, तो उससे तो पहले आ गए. सुधाकर जी was a प्रचारक from 1983 to 95, 12 years in a very fateful period when Assam agitation was at its peak. On the other side, Ram Mandir Andolan was also at its peak. And while he has lived this life, I am just an observer. There's a very big difference between an observer and person who's put his life on the front, on the ground. So, with that in mind, I have nothing but respect for him. There are only two things we share. One is our common Sangha Karya, Prerna Sutra is same, Bhagavad Dhwaj. And secondly, being from a generation which has seen very climactic changes in social and national life, where we saw the national thoughts being marginalized, made untouchable, called abusive names, sidelined, and in that somebody goes to Assam and sees the rise of a different kind of Assam which was written off at one time. So these are the ideas where we share that we have seen the extreme neglect, and now that thought has become the center pole of the national discourse. So we are lucky that way. And to reach that change, a lot of Karyakartas, thousands of Karyakartas have worked quietly on the field without any, as he rightly pointed out, Colonel Saab, that without any expectation, without any idea. So there is a Geet in Sangha which says, उच्च है वह शिखर देखो मैं नहीं वह स्थान लूंगा, पूज्य माँ की अर्चना का एक छोटा उपकरण हूं. We know that, the pracharaks know that, the karyakarta knows it, that in his lifetime also he may not see success. So when you talk to earlier generation of people, a little elder than me, they literally cry when they say we never thought this will happen in a lifetime. So this is a sacrifice when we see no hope but still keep one working. I'm fortunate I'm here on the same stage as Raka Sudhakar Rao ji is. He's a rock star in Telugu, social media, I know that. And when listening to him, I could make out why he's a rock star. His aviral speech and the way he moved around, the way he gripped the audience. So for me, it's a very difficult situation to be in. You have seen Virendra Sehwag's batting, you have seen Sachin Tendulkar's batting. Suddenly you are going to have you have a Rahul Dravid trying to score some points. But still, I'll try my best. To look at Northeast region, in my book there is a quote where Jaideep Saikia writes, Northeast is not India's periphery. The region, Rajiv Sardesai called it, what he called it, tragedy of distance, something like that. Why you could not cover Assam news, he said, it's a irony of distance. So instead of that, what Saikia says, that Northeast is not India's periphery. The region is central not only to India's security, but also its identity as a nation that seeks to showcase unity in diversity. Few other regions in South and in Southeast Asia possess this miscellany of people and cultures that together form a unique entity, geostrategic imperative that is so vital. This is the importance of Assam. We don't realize this. And then I found out, I wrote that Northeast shares borders with Bangladesh, Bhutan, Myanmar, Tibet and now China. It makes up close to 40% of India's land borders. With its neighbors, it is the bright bridgehead of India towards economies of Southeast Asia, including southern China, with a huge natural resources, oil, gas, hydro and agriculture. So the people, the local tribes have a lot of things in common. We always said different log hai. Nehru ji kahin se padh kar aaye अंग्रेजों से कि these northeast people are from different race, they don't belong to Bharat. So we always had a sense of guilt, whether it's Jammu Kashmir, whether it's northeast, that we have tried to usurp people who don't belong to us. But that's not the truth. You go to Ramayana, Mahabharat, they themselves said they belong to Bharat. They themselves are links in Ramayana, Mahabharat. There was the Karbis who believe they are the Vanshaj of Sugriva and Bali. In Mahabharata, there is Hidamba, which Bodo Kacharis feel that they belong to the same Hidamba family. They still have girls named Hidamba. We had Rukmini, who Idumishmi tribes to be their princess who was married to Krishna. We have Parshuram Kund there. We have Pragjyotish described in detail in Mahabharata. Despite all these factors to the entire region to very strongly to Bharat, I was on a podcast with a Tripura writer, and he said in Tripura books, there are thousands of years references how the prince and princess are married to different kingdoms in Bharat. Unfortunately, we have been led astray to believe that they are different people. There is irony of distance. and we can't really understand them. All that, so many tribes, so many languages, that is true everywhere. So then I come to how Sangh entered the scene in such a scenario. In 1946, Dattopan Thengdi ji for the first time went to start Sangha Shakha in Assam. But there was a ban, Gandhi Hatya, and then he came back. Then 1950, Eknath Ranade ji moved around in Assam. Assam means Assam, Nepha belt, Manipur, Tripura. This was entire region was Assam. So he spent about a month there. Then he came back. There was a Varga going in Mumbai, in Maharashtra, where Babarao Bhide, the Sanchalag of Maharashtra, was there. And he said, if you don't start work there soon, in 10 years, this entire area will be cut off from Bharat. That was his reading. So immediately, he gave a Bodhik in the Varga and said, I need Pracharaks for Northeast. And 8 Pracharaks went from from Maharashtra. So I would like to definitely name them. Madhukar Limeji, whom I was fortunate to meet for the book, who went there and never came back. I mean, he met people and he ultimately died in Assam only. I met him just a couple of years before that. We had Sudhakar Damleji, Padmakar Vaze, Appa Kulkarni, Madhav Mahendale, Vinayak Limaye, and 2 more Pracharaks went to Bengal and 2 to Odisha. And we had Thakur Ram Singh, who was a Prant Pracharak, sent there, very young Pracharak. And there was Ganga Vishnu Sharma ji, who was also Sir Prant Pracharak. So these are the people who laid down the foundation. And is rightly pointed out that there was no idea where the food will be. So there was a Pracharak who went to a home believing that he will get food there. But the wife of the home, his wife, the gentleman's wife, was a Congress president of the Jilla. She said, I will never feed this Pracharak. I will never feed any Sangha people. And so he got hungry for many days. Ultimately, he found some way out. So, and like I said, there are many headgivers in Sangha Pracharak's lives, and how they sleep, how they work. I will give a out of context idea of a Pracharak, Yadarao Joshi. Even when he retired, was sitting in, old, we had this Pracharak's Vyavastha. So he still carried a lota in his thali. So Swayamsek said, Yadarao, now you are in Vridhashram, Keshav Krupa, and why do you need to carry a lota with the thala? He said, I have a habit, inbuilt habit. Because when I used to go to Karnataka, after Gandhi Hatya, we would never know when we'll enter a village, whether we'll allow it enter in a village, whether we'll get food or not. We don't know where we will, take a bath or relieve ourselves. So this lota was the rescue thing. Whenever something could be done, we could do with a lota. Imagine the kind of work they did. Similar situation in Assam also. So then how did he work? I'll come to that later. And what was the situation? So in Assam, as I said, there are conflicts everywhere. First conflict started in Nagaland. They declared themselves independent even before 15th August 1947. They declared on 14th August 1947. There are Mizos after that. There was Manipur conflict because they didn't want to merge with Manipur later. Now we find that Meitei and Kukis are fighting there. And we had only time when Indian Air Force actually bombed within Bharat was in Assam at that time. So the planes from Tezpur, Kumbhigram and Jorhat went and bombed Aizawl to stop the rebellion. It was under Indira Gandhi ji. This is only happened. Imagine the seriousness of the situation. Why it had to be done. And then there were, in Mizoram, there used to be quit Mizoram posters every now and then. 1966, 1974, 1979, 1982. So all the so-called foreigners of Indian origin had to leave. There are only 3 exceptions. One was Christians, other was Mongolians, third were of course Sangha Pracharaks. So these are people who were not allowed to stay in that area, and even after the statehood was given, again there were quit posters in 1987, 2011, 2013. Only they were against Chins of Myanmar who had entered Mizoram. So imagine the condition there. And Pracharaks there told them, how do you say you are Mongoloids? Who has said it? British have said it. British is their own grudge. But do you have any original picture which tells you that you're from Mongol area? They had none. So everywhere they had to fight a situation of these people. Then near Tripura, where people from East Pakistan, later Bangladesh, flooded Tripura, the Chakma Buddhists, the Hindus who were persecuted. So Tripura had imbalance. So they started, a conflict started. And later, Mizos also opposed Buddhist Chakma and Bru Hindus who had to be shifted with Sangha support to other areas so they could live their life. And it was during this time that Bhaiyaji Kane, who was from Dombivali, who started a school in Ukhrul, which was just 6 kilometers away from Myanmar border. And it took through 2 days, I believe, to reach the school. And how do you work? He said, how do I make them feel they are part of Bharat? He said, I'll take children to Mumbai and so they will feel part of Bharat, and I will bring my people to Manipur. So some local naysayers, including church Christians, converted Christians, said, no, he will take them, he will take away their kidney, he will make them into Hindus and all that, and we can't allow that. He will run away. So he had a young boy with him, not his son, called Jayant. He's still there, still works in Northeast. He said, ऐसा करो, इसको रख लो अपने पास. You keep him with you. You give your children to me. If I come back, you give back Jayant to me, or Jayant, you can keep Jayant with you. Look at the trust. And Jayant doesn't budge. He stays back in Manipur. And today is still a worker. That's the thing that started later. There was student interstate living program was there by ABP. Then there was India My Home by Sunil Devdar. All this process of continuously bringing people here, educating, sending them back. So all the politicians that you see today is hard work of those years where they stayed with Swayamsevak families, learned that what Bharat is and what they are, and now they are back to Northeast. The atmosphere that will change doesn't happen just by politics. Understand this. It happened by slowly seeding the thought of integration within people, and that was Sangha for years. And you'll be surprised that Meghalaya and many other, now they are states, you could not raise tricolor on 15th August and 26th January. People on TV debates say, कि भैया तुम तो तिरंगा लहराते नहीं हो. In those places, there used to be 72-hour band that you cannot celebrate either Republic Day or the Independence Day. And then Sangh started flag hoisting in Singh Khasi areas and Seva Bharati schools. And still there was threats. And somewhere in 2014 or 13, Mohan Bhagwat ji went to same area, and we had for the first time 8,000 Swayamsevaks in Ganesh attending in a full-fledged program. So this is the change that happened over long years. There was Seva Karya, there were educational programs, because Sangha Shakha running was very difficult. I know of a young pracharak of my age during the college days who came back because he could not take the persecution. He talked about people being kidnapped, picked up. It happened routinely. 4 pracharaks lost their lives. In year 1999, they were kidnapped for many days. You could not trace them. Finally, they were found dead. And they were tortured very hard. I heard from Sumantaji the story of those pracharaks. So how these people worked is something that you wonder when you say, क्या करता है संघ? शत्रु बोध नहीं है संघ को. संघ को हिंदू समाज का पता नहीं है. संघ को इंटेलेक्चुअल आइडिया नहीं है. इंटेलेक्चुअल आइडिया के बिना समाज खड़ा नहीं होता, समाज को दिशा नहीं मिलती. इसके लिए केवल भाषण देने से इंटेलेक्चुअल वो शत्रुबोध नहीं बनता. भाषण देने से समाज जुड़ता नहीं है. वो काम हम वहां देख सकते हैं. और इसके अंदर इन दिस पर्टिकुलर थिंग, role of church is very important. As you know, when church converts people, church started their work in 1836. The first church came up in Northeast, a Baptist church from USA. And now every kind of church, उनके कई धंधे के चर्च, सबके अलग अलग दुकान है. हर दुकान वहां पर है, सबके बैनर है. And they all converted. And by the time Sangha reached there, already a lot of conversion had taken place, and you were fighting forces where church was supporting the terrorist organizations. Do you ever wonder why church is never attacked in Naxal belt, never attacked in Northeast, never attacked in area where the church is active? So there is a nexus which is either covert or overt. Many places overt. When these 4 pracharaks were murdered, at that time Mohanji Bhagwat was Sar Karewa. He openly said that there is a nexus between church and these terrorists. And apart from that, there is also another game they play. Once is that you must give up your relatives, you must give up your gods, you must burn them, you must burn all the scriptures, you must break your ties with families who don't convert. All this continuous social pressure and insulting the local faith. And what did Sangha do at that time? I'll come to that later. They also try to change the script. So there's African scholar who says that if the bullet was the means of physical subjugation, language was the means of spiritual subjugation. So wherever they go, they try to impose Roman script, because once you change the script, you lose the link with your original language. So there was a gentleman called Bineshwar Brahmo who was killed by terrorists because he wanted Bodo language to be written in Devanagari. So this is the kind of continuous terror that people stayed in. There are questions of Chakmas and Brus, as I earlier talked about, who nobody was owning them up. They would be attacked by the tribes who had converted to church. Only Sangha stood there. Others would come when they had gone back. They will come on the TV show and all that. Sangha people stood with them. They took their care. And Sangha was the first who warned about the communal polarization of Muslims in Assam and Christians in other states. And one more thing I wanted to talk about was that he talked about Sadaullah. So in 1921, the migration started. More food, you want to grow more food. So a lot of valley areas were given to Muslims from East Pakistan. So British were so frustrated. Lord Wavell said it is not grow more food, it is grow more Muslims. So the problem you see today didn't start now. When they say history mein kya rakha, aaj ki baat karo. But unless you look at the root of the problem, you'll see the problem is recurring. Now you have same problem in Assam. It keeps on recurring. And during this time, when we talk about the Assam problem, there are two issues. One is the language issue, which was in 1961, I think, the language riots. Bengali versus Assamia. Because Bengalis were the better of people, they came with the government service. Assamia were at that time poor. So effort to balance the two was also a big conflict issue at that time, which somehow Assam survived. But then began the 1970 election in Mangaldoyi, where they found out 28,000 illegal voters, illegal immigrants on the voter card. That was the seed of 1980 Assam agitation. And Sudhakar Rao ji was there at that time. He was part of that thing. And what Sangha did at that time, Sangha refused to fall for populist stand that every foreigner must go. Sudarshan ji was the Kshetra Pracharak at that time. He studied everything, went to all the libraries. He said, we cannot stop Hindu persecuted minorities, Buddhists or Hindus, but we must stop economic migration, which is basically illegal Muslim migration, or those who come here for economic means. Those who come because they cannot stay there, we must allow them to stay. There was a lot of friction. AJP refused to talk with RSS or BJP and said, we will go ahead. And that struggle, continuous struggle to don't allow Hindus to be bracketed with Muslims during all this refugee crisis and Assam's very heated agitation, finally saw in CAA that we had a resolution, the bill, the act which said we will allow CAA or early citizenship to people, minorities from Bangladesh and Pakistan, not Hindus. Though Hindus are coming, only Hindus will get it. So they called it anti-Muslim and all. So it took from 1983 to 2014. The struggle was continuously on. It was a bloody struggle. 1983 elections saw a lot of bloodshed, and there was IMDT bill which literally gave right to citizenship to everybody. The case was fought by Savaran Sonowal. The case was solved in 2004 or 14? 4. Yes. 20 years, illegal migration was continuously on. So when you go through the book, you will find that percentage of Muslims increasing 4 to 5 times the growth of population of other communities, whether Christians or Hindus. It was in these areas that Sangha worked. And how did Sangha work? The first program Sangha did after 1950 when Sangha resolution was first time passed after ban, it was to collect funds for refugees from East Pakistan, 1950. And special fund was created. Guruji gave appeal. That was the beginning of new Sangha after the ban was lifted. Then in 1967, You will remember 1966 there was Prayag Dharma Sansad where Vishnu Hindu Parishad formally came into public, where we had this Hindu na patito bhavet and these kind of ideas where every Shankaracharya, every Mathadish, every Sampradaya was brought on a single stage. And for the first time, Hindu society came together after 1000 years during Chola times, when every sect, every Sampradaya came together and this resolution was passed, including Shankaracharya supporting it, which was revolutionary. That the first time Hindu Samaj says we don't believe in caste, we don't believe in untouchability. This was brought after that. The next meeting that took place of Vishnu Hindu Parishad was not somewhere else. It was in Assam, Guwahati. Because Guruji realized that this is one of the very important part, that these tribes, these people who feel isolated must be part of the mainstream Hindu thought. So people criticized him. They said, how are you calling these people? These are animist people. These are natural people. They worship trees. They worship animals. They eat beef. They eat cow meat. So they can't be Hindus. So Guruji said, Hindus, we are also animist. We also worship snake. We also worship animals. We also worship the nature. So they are also as Hindu as we are. As far as beef is concerned, they had certain habits, different food habits due to lack of food. As things change, slowly they will also change. So they will come to the Vishnu Parishad platform. That is how the scene, slowly we had seen where these people started coming to Vishnu Parishad, Seva Bharati, then Vivekanand Kendra, Sangha, and slowly over a period of 70 years, we saw this change coming, which suddenly burst forth in 2014. So there is tapas of people like this who is sitting on the stage. We saw this change. And there are hundreds of such people who have gone there, worked there, including every prachara from Maharashtra has to end up in Northeast. Because the original responsibility of Northeast is with the Maharashtra. Most of the hostels are in Maharashtra for people from Northeast. So all these changes that you see have resulted of a period of time with this tapas that we see today. I talked of, he gave many examples. So coming to the concluding part, I'm sorry I made some rough notes and I lost track. So I hope still you made some sense of what I said. So when you look at how a nation is built, how society is built, you look at the work that Sangha did in Northeast, unsung, unspoken, and when you see, then you start appreciating what people like Sudhakar has done and what others were talking while we were saying something which is very different from what mainstream media talked about, what political parties talked about, why Sangha was talked of some kind of village buffoon who doesn't know what's happening in the country, they don't understand nationhood. But that intelligent, I talked about some of the ideas that Sangha implemented. Because we could not run shakhas, we had Seva Karya, we had schools running there, and we had different kind of programs running there. We also supported the indigenous tribes. The indigenous tribe movement is very difficult to run. But what Sangha did, that they gave them support to be proud of their indigenous faith. Slowly that faith is picking up, and now even people who have turned Christian, they also celebrate the Naga festivals, which are earlier tribal festivals, or Arunachal festivals, which the earlier you were told not to go to them because you will be against Jesus or against Christ. So this is how slowly you turn around society. When you turn around a ship, it takes a lot of time, because the ship can be weak, because the people inside are they are very sure what the balance of ship is, and then you take people along. That taking people along slowly has seen that slow change that you see. I'll close by another Sangha Geet, and I will close my words. शलभ बन जलना सरल है, स्नेह की जलती चिता पर. That means you can burn very easily on the flame, falling in love with the flame, but स्वयं को तिल तिल जलाकर दीप बन जलना कठिन है, साधना का पथ कठिन है. So you slowly burn yourself out. Dr. Hedgewar would live only 15 years after he started Sangha work, because he burnt himself, entire body was burnt. He was a very heavy duty, very wonderful person with wonderful physique. But because of his irregular habits, living in poverty, working day and night, thinking nothing but of the nation, he burnt out in 15 years. But Swayamsevak and Karyakartas who work for life, knowing there is no prize, there is no recognition, but also that you have to live. You have to live like a lamp and burn yourself up. But still, you see smiling people. You see smiling pracharaks, never disappointed. We made crib, they never crib. So, this is the community around which Sangh is built. This is the karyakartas around. You have seen many people in the life also who work just for 8 hours in the day. All their other time is given to Sangha work, to Samaj Seva. So, these are the people who build the nation. And we meet such people. Remember, these are the people who gave their lives, gave their and whatever they could. You would have seen karyakartas. Saw karyakartas in my life, in my shakha, who did not take any promotion for 20 years. I saw karyakartas who would come in, go to the office in the morning with half pant in the bag, come down the train, wear half pant, start Sangha work, go back at 10 at home. Again in the morning they would start for years together. So on one side you are fighting an insurgent area, risking your lives, and also working with no resources at all. And there are also people, grihasti people, who give their all without, you don't even realize. I never realized that my Mukhiksha Kareva had not taken promotion for 20 years. We never thought, where is their family? So give a second thought. When you meet a Karyakarta, give a second thought that how the Samaj is built up. That is the sense of the story, because I believe that in the book, though it's a Telugu, I could find out many characters that he has described. I also read the book Khatti Mithi Yaadein of Madhukara Lime, where he gives bittersweet experiences, how Samaj behaves with them, how Samaj mistreats them, but still you keep on working with the same people. So that is the secret of Sangha, that you work selflessly, you work without any hate, without any negative thought, and ultimately you see the change that you see today in Bharat, where you see a new resurgent Bharat. The resurgent Bharat was not built on lectures, it was built on slow, steady work on the ground for years together to come to this stage. Dhanyavad.